Well, I tell you what, our friends up at Tulalip, they've been providing our show with some legends the last couple of months. We've had Robert Klein and Rita Rudner and Howie Mandel, and now the star among all those stars, Martin Short, joins us here on KIRO Radio. Martin, it's great to talk with you again.
Great to talk with you. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Last I had you on a year ago when you were touring with Steve Martin. How'd that work out for you?
Well, we're continuing to do it. We're all over the place.
Yeah.
We now call the show "See Them Before They're Dead."
Okay. When did you and Steve Martin, because you guys have done the movies together, you toured together, when did you guys figure out that you had that chemistry and wanted to be around each other that much?
Well, I mean, we're very, very close friends, from Three Amigos making that movie on. And I guess it was 2012, we were asked to close the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival to interview each other. And that's all it was. It was just, a 90-minute interview with the two of us asking questions in an audience. And we found it turned out to be very funny. But mainly we were taken up with the ease of it all and how much fun and finishing each other's sentence we were. And, of course, it'd been, 1,000 dinners and
Sure.
things like that. So we just decided to create a show with the two of us. My show is different than our show, but they're equally fun.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your career, because I became such a huge fan. I think I was about 21 years old when you were on SCTV, and it just felt like such a hip alternative to Saturday Night Live, and you guys were doing longer form stuff, and
right.
What an amazing assemblage of talent you guys had on that show.
Oh, it was unbelievable. It really was. It was this kind of original thing that happened, where suddenly, and the cast kind of controlled the show. We were the bosses, the inmates running the asylum expression, but it was really kind of true. And everyone had worked with each other and knew each other for so many years before that show, from the stage and even just from life, so that there was such a great chemistry with everyone. And again, we were given complete freedom to do whatever we wanted to do. So it was very, very exciting way to work.
Well, and yeah, you mentioned stage before that. It's amazing to contemplate. I know you were in that Toronto production of Godspell. Eugene Levy, Dave Thomas, Andrea Martin, Gilda Radner, Victor Garber. I mean, what an unbelievable group of talent in a Toronto production of a play that went on to, such stardom elsewhere.
I know. It was, you don't know it at the time. The real kind of hero of that story to me was Stephen Schwartz, who would later write Wicked and endless, things, but he was like 24, and he had this show, Godspell, that had opened in New York off-Broadway, and it was a hit, and now they were going to do this sister company in Toronto, and, it was like American Idol. There were 1,000 people that auditioned for it, and he narrowed it down to this small group of 10.
Yeah.
And he was 24 years old saying, I think we want that kid. And he'd point to me and Eugene Levy and Gilda and Andrea and Victor Garber. And Paul Schaefer came in,
right,
playing for a girlfriend. And Stephen Schwartz said, I can't stand my rehearsal pianist, but who's that guy pounding a piano like I've never heard it pounded before? So he said to Paul, I want to fire my rehearsal pianist, but I will, and if you would take over, I'll make you musical director. So it was all kind of out of the movies,
I'd say the kid had a pretty good eye for talent.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. And then, so from there, FCTV, and then I remember having, grown up with Saturday Night Live, there was all this talk that the franchise was dead, the Eddie Murphy group had moved on, and man, they needed a group, a cast to save that show, and you were part of it.
Yeah. Dick Ebersol, it wasn't Lauren, it was Dick Ebersol, called it the George Steinbrenner year, where he gave everyone, 4 of us a 1-year contract and more money than he had paid other cast members, because he thought, I have to do something or this show's going to get canceled. And for the first time, they hired people who had done other things. Billy Crystal was already a star at that point. Christopher Guest, Harry Shearer had just done Spinal Tap, and I had been on SCTV. So it was a pretty exciting year.
How stressful is it when that's kind of the mission? You're saving a franchise that was so groundbreaking, because I've heard from everyone I've talked to who's done the show that it's stressful even under the best of situations. But
I think it's true that the drag of it was, in retrospect, is that when I look at people who've been there, Keenan's going into his 15th year. When you know that, I think that Billy and I particularly treated it like we were doing 22 specials. Mm-hmm. So we created the greater pressure even on ourselves to that, because we knew we were only there for a year. You didn't feel like you could slack off or say, gee, I don't have anything this week, but that's okay, I'll be in other sketches. You felt, we were there all night, always.
Yeah. And was there the possibility of you doing more than that 1 year?
Not really. I remember meeting with Lorne Michaels about Three Amigos, but we were suddenly now talking a lot about SNL. He hadn't committed to coming back, but he was saying, now, if we came back, and I said, I'm not coming back. And it just never dawned on me. I'd done SCTV for 3 years. Now that was a lot of work, and then now I'd done SNL for a year and pulled it off by luck. And I had a new little baby, and I just I wanted to go to California. Yeah. Try the movies,
Well, okay, let's talk about some of those movies, because my oldest daughter, Martin, I have 3 daughters. My oldest daughter just got engaged, and I'm thinking that I need to rewatch Father of the Bride.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
You do. It becomes like a rite of passage for a father.
Yeah, well, and I'll tell you, because Steve Martin, who you did that with, when Parenthood came out, my wife was pregnant with that daughter, and I went to the theater and I was sobbing because I was about to become a dad, and I'm afraid that Father of the Bride, Martin, is going to have that same effect on me now that I'm about to be a father of a bride.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. Because it does. It's a very well crafted movie and a very emotional movie and very funny movie. It has all those elements. Nancy Myers, Charles Shire did a really brilliant job of that one.
Should I look for wedding planners along the lines of you?
Well, I'm not cheap, but sure, go ahead.
Okay.
But whatever you do, make it chic.
So now...
That's what I suggest.
So now you're touring. You're going to be at Tulalip, as I said, May 26th and 27th, Martin Short. Tickets available at Ticketmaster. So when you do the show solo, what is it comprised of? Do you do a retrospective of all your characters?
Well, certainly characters show up. Jiminy Glick will interview a surprise guest. Ed Grimley shows up. Frank shows up, discussing who has style and doesn't have style, He says, that Kim Kardashian, she's a lovely girl, but I did her wedding dress, and it was, Kim wore white because she can be ironic, but she's not bright. She thinks soy milk is Spanish for I am milk. And Jiminy Glick will interview someone, and Jackie Rogers, and but also there's a lot of improvising. At one point I bring 3 people up and turn them into the Three Amigos.
Nice.
From the audience, 3 guys up, there's stand up, and there's singing, and there's film clips, and it's like a party with Marty.
It's awesome. I remember you right before the election, you were betting $1 million on Hillary. How's this whole Trump thing working out for you, Martin?
I would say as bad as I thought it would be with President Trump, it's 5 to 100 times worse.
Martin, it's always a pleasure talking with you. I really appreciate you coming on with me this afternoon.
Thank you, Dori.
All right, we have lots more to come as the Dori Monson Show rolls on.